Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A holla ballers to you. Day 3 of the race. My God. Drama. DJ Scripey T, Team Despair, Team Hope, and Method. Not view botting per se, just inflating numbers and the drama kicking off around that. And a big drama, of course, is 6 out of 9 bosses I've come into the studio this morning are already dead, and Liquid and Echo haven't even stepped foot inside the Mythic raid, and Echo will not be stepping foot inside Mythic today. As I'm talking to you, I think Liquid is just going to bed, probably, and getting ready to start their Mythic run late this afternoon. Of course, they're a day ahead, so Echo will be playing all day. So let's get into it. All right, so 6 out of 9 bosses are dead. It's a little spooky, but not unsurprising. Like, the first few bosses are usually the ones that die or get one-shot by the guilds anyway. It's just not a particularly long raid. 9 bosses, and only 3 bosses are remaining. So people are like, already people are like, what the hell, Ren? Are Instant Dollars, which are an extremely good guild, going to be like on Farak before like Liquid and Echo even get inside? And it really does come down to how Smolderon is going to play out and how T-Swift is going to play out. Smolderon was the boss I was hoping was going to be the first, like, major, we call it a wall, but, like, that wall is, like, maybe 30, 50 pulls, something like that. I'm not convinced now that is actually going to be the case. He has a lot of HP. He has, like, 1.4 billion HP. He has quite a lot, but the guilds know what they're doing. They've dealt with things like kiting orbs, which is going to be the mythic mechanic before, and with their split runs, their damage should probably be there, so given that the end of wing bosses died really, really quickly for Instant Dollars, like, I think Laredal took, what, like 30 pulls for them, and Naimu took less. Those are the ones where we're kind of going to get a gauge on how the tuning was done for this raid, because they were pretty adamant, like, you're going to have way less gear, our tuning's going to be on point, and those bosses died very quickly. And in a 9-boss raid, having 6 of them dead already is like, okay, when the big boys get in there, they're probably going to one-shot, probably at least the first 5, right? And maybe a few wipes on Laredal, but Laredal's going to fall over. And then we've just got Smolderon, T-Swift, and Farak to go. Really is, in my mind, my personal perspective on this is that it's probably looking like it's just a Farak raid, which is definitely a little disappointing. In recent memory, I will point this out, like, historically, that is how the Race to World First was. It was, you cleared all of the previous, of the penultimate boss within a day or so, and then you might spend like 6 days on the final boss. So we've seen that all the way from like BFA and previous, you know, it was Gahoon that was the big boss, it was Jaina that was the big boss, and so on and so forth. In recent memory, though, that's not been the case. We have had good, solid multi-day progression bosses before we even reach the final boss. Don't think that's going to be the case here. From the look of it, Blizzard was pretty happy, and I don't blame them for this, I want to be clear on that, to have a somewhat easier time in Mythic than we've had in the past, and then maybe a big build-up at the end, because it's much, much better for the overall player base. It's exactly the same thing we talked about with the Sarkareth raid in Aberrus, is that for the overall player base, this is kind of fine. They're not going to be, like, wailing away on a mid-tier boss for days and days and days, or weeks and weeks and weeks, or multi-progression resets. They're going to be making good, steady progress through the raid. Bosses are going to be falling over, and they're eventually going to be clearing it in a reasonable amount of time, which also fits in the more seasonal style of play of World of Warcraft these days. So it's, one, from a Race to World First perspective, we do want some meat. We want some story to be told. And I am saying this from a caster point of view as well, as we like it when a story develops. The story of Rygalon, the story of Lords of Dread, the stories of the Jailer. Everyone always cherry-picks Halondrus, but I always consider Halondrus to be an anomaly in terms of how it worked. But those other bosses, which seem to get left to the wayside, those had a story in themselves that wasn't like, oh, the boss died. But I'm not convinced at this point. I'm waking up and seeing where other guilds are at, where Instant Dollars is at, who is way ahead of everybody else, but still looking at it and be like, oh, okay. When the guys come in here after doing, like, over 100 split runs of Heroic and Normal, they're probably going to chew through this raid really, really quick. And I would not even be surprised, I don't think, to see Liquid be at Farak today. in the next 24 hours. Like, they'll be going to bed now, they'll be sleeping a bit, and then they'll be raiding again later this afternoon. And by this time tomorrow, to be up to Farak, streams off. Then they're working on Farak as Echo gets started in Mythic at this time tomorrow. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's my current feeling on it. And I do say my personal feeling is a little disappointing. I like a story to develop over a raid. I don't want a raid to be relatively forgetful. I feel like Aberrus does fall into that category. So it was just so short. One and done. That's not disrespecting Liquid. I'm talking about the raid overall. It was so short. It was so done. Most of the Race to World first time was splits more than the actual Mythic progress. But we'll see how it goes. I certainly feel today on day 3, and again, this is why we like doing these recaps, right? Because I might feel very differently tomorrow or even the day after, that we're going to be doing Farak all the way up until the reset, and Farak may die before that, and we'll have like a six-day race, and that will be it, done and heading home before the reset happens. There's a possibility in my mind right now. There's just not enough bosses left, and unless Blizzard has decided to create some sort of massive wall as soon as you hit Smolderon, T-Swift, and Farak, then that's probably what's going to happen. Because the guilds are so good that if you give them multiple days on a boss and it is killable, so they have like the next 3 days on Farak, they're probably going to kill it. That's the likelihood of what's going to happen. And we might end up with another Sakura situation where we just see like Echo has to just push and go. They have to just try and kill Sakura, otherwise Liquid is just going to kill it. And there's no time. They have to make up that 24 hours because it's just the condensed week. That is the nature of it. And we're just going to go back to the ridiculous scenario of like talking about global release and blah, 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 blah. And some people feeling like it was totally fair. Some people feeling like it was smited. And overall, it's just not a good ending to a cohesive story and who was ultimately the best. So we'll wait and see. Right now, I feel it is going to go that way. And Farak is probably going to die. But in good news, the race will be ramping up massively in the next 24 hours, right? I had breakfast with the Echo boys this morning. They're like, okay, we've got to do, I think we're doing like 16 or 17 Farak runs today to get that done. They'll be trying to do them as efficiently as possible because they have to get to Mythic now. There's no chance. There's no choice. As far as I know, Liquid is kind of done with their splits. It's all done and dusted. They're just going to be going Mythic now. And if this is going to be a short race, Echo just has to get there. They have to make up that day. It's got to be done, because if we're looking at something like Sakura, and they've been in this situation before, they've seen it, they've learned from it, is that we have to make up that 24 hours. Otherwise, Liquid is just going to kill the boss because we're not ramping up. I will say on the back of that, though, having assessed Farak Mythic more and more, and now seen the arena, and actually had a little look at it on Heroic as well, Farak Mythic looked like it's going to be a monster, like an absolute beast. So even if Smolderon and T-Swift die relatively quickly, that does not mean the race is just done at that point, because it looks like they may just ramp up Farak. What we are seeing again, and this is really normal, I wouldn't be surprised by that, is Blizzard is paying close attention to the outputs of, certainly of instant dollars. They'll be following them. It's like, how much damage and defense do those guys have? Now we're starting to see some little hot fixes coming to the bosses to boost them up. So that's what Blizzard does. They do an absolute best guess, for the most part. They get it wrong sometimes, on how strong the guilds are going to be. And then they take that information and they adjust the final bosses accordingly. If they think that these bosses are too easy or too hard, they can make adjustments there. So what we know is that Instant Dollars definitely pulled Smolderon. That's available on Twitch. You could watch that clip, and maybe we could just post a little clip here of it. So Blizzard, nobody's killed it yet, and nobody's really put in some time on it, some progress. So Blizzard is fully capable now of going, okay, this is dying way too fast. We need to ramp these bosses up. Otherwise, it's just going to fall over and die. And we do have a repeat of Aberrus. Maybe that's not the biggest thing. That maybe not the greatest thing in the world. Part of this is also a worry that I know after Aberrus, there were several of the Echo players who are like, I'm just not down with this, man. We put in thousands of hours. We are waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to raid till 11 p.m. the following, that same day, doing heroic splits for days on end to do like a day and a half, 2 days of Mythic prog. And not only that, there's, the thousands of hours that go in beforehand, preparing all the characters, doing all the spreadsheets, all the work that goes into organizing stuff, and it's just not worth it anymore for just 2 days of Mythic prog. And if that happens back to back, I have concerned about the future of the Race to World First. Like, I just don't think a lot of it's not a case of the money or anything like that. It's just not worth my time. It's not worth me investing my life into doing this, even though I love it, to get so little out of it at the back end. To just be like, oh, okay, we got to like actually prograde for a day and a half, 2 days, or whatever it's going to be. So we'll see where that goes. But that's like the Doomsday side of me. On the other side, Blizzard is buffing and adjusting the bosses. Farak does look like it's going to be absolutely crazy. You know, by the end, we've got Holondrus bombs and stuff coming. The guys are obviously experienced with that environment. So whether they'll deal with it much quicker, they should do. We'll see how that plays out. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Overall, the mood in the room is stick to the plan. Because that's historically what is best. Nothing the guilds have done. And I know there'll be some people who are maybe new to the Race to World First who are like, hey, man, Instant Dollars is like up to Smolderon already, and you guys haven't even stepped foot inside the raid. Aren't you concerned? No. No, it's fully, that's kind of, it's not, it's a little quick, but it's not unexpected, and it's not unsurprising. It's not like, oh my god. But sticking to the plan is the move. You have to stick to the plan. Because if you don't, and you rush in, and you're undergeared relative, certainly to the competition, which would be Liquid, who have already done all their splits, you're going to lose. They're just going to outgear you. Like, it's as simple as that. They're just going to be doing considerably more damage, considerably more healing. They're going to be able to withstand much more punishment than you are. You're going to be playing on the back foot for the whole way. You've got to stick to the plan. And if it turns out that the last 3 bosses are just not that difficult, so be it. It sucks. It's disappointing. We deal with the fallout of that afterwards. But as it stands right now, you can't just go in with people missing like the 4-piece and stuff. Like, that's what they'll be doing for Rack for today, is to get their make sure everybody's got their 4-piece tier set. You can't just not do that. It's not okay. Like, that's not okay. You can't just do that. You're just going to lose. It's as simple as that. You're just woefully underpowered. So you've got to stick to the plan, and no decision they've made here is incorrect. And I was talking about this with Alex beforehand, is you can't just be like, oh, you guys should just do less splits. Because you don't know what you're going to face. And the solution to this, there is a solution to this. You can't just do less splits, because it's not going to work out well for you when the raid is slightly harder. It's not going to work. There's a reason they do all these splits. It's important. What you could do is just put Heroic Week back, so that the guilds don't do these splits during the Mythic race, right? If you just return Heroic Week, the guys will have done all this off camera, off stream, and we would then be going into the Mythic race, and they don't start the week with heroic splits. That's not what happened in the past. They go straight into Mythic. They just are ready to go. They might do a half day or a full day of splits, but typically that actually came later in the race, like usually just before the final boss, when you're like, this is the comp we're going to use. Now we're going to do a couple of splits to finish off the characters that are going to be in the final raid comp. Everything else will kill as it is. It was actually the common strategy back in the day. Mythic day 1, you've already done all the heroic splits the week before Mythic was released. You go into Mythic day 1, and you push as hard as you can with what you have, all the way up until the last boss. You will spend a lot of time on the penultimate boss just to get to the last boss, so you don't waste splits and gear characters you're not going to use. A return to that would solve that, but if things stay as they are, it would also mean the Race to World First is like 2 days long. And that's it. Done and dusted. And it would kind of, I think for both Liquid and Echo, it would just kill the whole idea of the Race to World First, because it's just no longer worth doing for 2 days of an event, especially the levels of production that go into this thing. So I think Blizzard doesn't want that either. The Race to World First puts a ton of eyeballs, a lot of discussion, all about World of Warcraft. It's the biggest free advertising Blizzard gets. I highly doubt they want it to go down that route. And the alternative to that, of course, if you're a skeptic, is that Blizzard wants to keep the release like this with normal, heroic, and mythic on the same week, because it artificially extends the life of their free advertising event. So, you know, that's all running through my brain in one way. It's like the optimist and the pessimist are at war about these kind of things. The splits went well. Guilds got caught up in Echo. They've got like a couple of normal splits to do, and then we're going into Firax all day, so I'll be sorting that out later on. Regarding the method thing, so a big drama kicked off last night. It was actually Asmon who started it, but I believe, I'm not sure how he got the information, but it was something we knew about. So what is happening over there? There is, obviously, okay, I have a lot of friends in Method. right? There's no, and they have nothing to do with this process. I just want to be absolutely clear. Like the people producing Method, the casters, etc., all those people who are doing stuff for Method, who are my friends, are not involved in what's going on here. And what they're doing is not fraudulent or anything like that. But what obviously most of you are pretty tech savvy, so be aware of embeds, like where you can embed your stream on various websites and things. So it might appear for most of you, it probably appear on Wowhead, on Radar.io, on Warcraft logs, on whatever, right? U.GG has like the Echo stream up and stuff. And when people go to the website and that stream starts playing, it counts as a view on Twitch, even though that person might not be watching it. They're just on a web page. So if you go to, say, Wago, which Method owns, and you're downloading a WeakAura, the stream will be playing, even though you're not there for that, and you're just downloading a WeakAura or whatever, but it will count over on Twitch as a view. And what it does, it obviously adds viewers to the channel, and it moves it up the category, so you're more prominent, right? There's a add-on, it's like a browser extension, that you can get that shows you how many real viewers are watching a channel. And a big example of this was Fextra Life recently, that was embedded everywhere and had ludicrous amounts of views, especially for new game releases. Yet it turned out there was a ridiculously low percentage of people that were actually in the channel, like real people who were like, I want to watch this channel. Really, really low compared to the amount of views. So when looking at this, and the reason I know about it is we deal with sponsors a lot. And one of the big things we do, let's say we do a sponsored game check, you know, I did one recently for Warhammer because I'm interested in Warhammer. I want to know the story of Warhammer. And there's a new Warhammer coming out called Age of Sigmar. And they were like, hey, can you play this? I'm like, absolutely. This game looks really fun. I only ever do sponsored playthroughs of games I think I would enjoy. So we were checking it out and playing it. And after you do that, the way it works is you have to send your information back to whoever gave you the sponsorship to let them know how you did. So it's like, hey, we had several thousand viewers for this. These are the impressions you have to give them all the data. And then they decide off the back of that, it's like, are you worth working with again? Did you do enough? You know, sometimes the deal is tied to how many people might have watched it. Did you just play it because we asked you to and we're paying you? Right? There's a big difference between accepting every deal that comes across your table. And you're like, yep, I'll do it all. Pay me. And you just sit there and you just sort of mindlessly play the game and you're clearly not having fun or enjoying yourself. And you never would ever play this game if it wasn't for the sponsorship. Big difference between, oh, cool. Not only do we get to play a game I kind of wanted to play, but we're also getting paid for it. And let's have fun. And you're engaging and you're enjoying yourself, which is why we're very selective about the games that we play. You send that data back because less viewers are going to watch. The problem is, then when you go to do an event, you have to let the sponsors know, on average, how many people do you think you're going to attract? Because that's how much money they're going to pay you. If you're getting, like, let's say overall through the day, a channel like mine, overall through the day, might get something like 40,000 views, right, on my Twitch channel when I'm streaming. And that's a mix of, like, consistent viewers and people who drop in, say hi, have a look at what's going on, chill out for a bit, and then leave. Because Twitch is a constant washing machine of people. You'll have people who are there regularly, so they're like the super regulars, and a lot of people who, like, I watch you for, like, a couple of hours before work, then I go to work, and if you're still live, I'll come back later, and some people who could only watch on their lunch break. All those people come in, come out, come in, come out. And that's the, like, ever-shifting tide, right? So over the day, that builds up a lot of, like, impressions. Like, people who went there, okay, I've got to go and go to the gym. I've got to go walk my dog, whatever. I leave the stream, I come back, and so on and so forth. So you end up with a lot of views. And you send that over. And that's the data they use to derive how much they're going to pay you. It's as simple as that. And like, okay, last time we did this, did that. So when you're inflating those views, if the sponsors aren't wise, they'd be like, wow, there's a shitload of people watching and you get more money for it. Now, I'm not accusing Method of doing this. But what we saw is, and I saw this as well, is that the sponsors, I need to be careful about what I say here a little bit. Let's just say we received a message saying, have you seen this? Let's just say that's what happened. And I checked, and on our channel, I think at the time the Echo channel had sort of 37,000 viewers with a 96% real person rate. Awesome. We're doing a good job, right? We're doing a really good job. Max was the same. Max was like the same numbers, or close, you know, close to the numbers. Team Liquid was about the same. Their main channel was about the same. And Methods was, I think, I'm sorry guys, but it is what it is. It was like 21% were actual people according to the browser extension. And that can be wrong. It can be wrong, but it was very, very noticeable that's what was going on. And then Asmon got wind of it and was like, dude, you're shitting on people. Because this is the dark side of it, is you're like squashing other content creators who are doing really well, but you're squashing them by doing this. That's why people had the issue with Extra Life for the same thing. It's like you're crushing other people in the channel by pushing yourself up the algorithm, even though there's not that many people there that are actually watching and engaged with this. These views are coming from somewhere else. And that's where it gets really sort of menacing, because it's unfair. It's totally unfair. Like you're fighting. Twitch is a never-ending war. All the time. Yeah, we're friends with people, but the idea is you have to claw and scrape your way to try and keep people in. Like, you have those moments with, like, downtime, and people will drift off. It's like, oh, this bit's pretty boring. I'm going to go see what's going on somewhere else. And you're always fighting. It's like a snake pit in Twitch, right? For the business end of it. And squashing people down sucks. It really freaking sucks. So that was called out yesterday. I don't think anything's going to particularly change. I know they turned the chat to like emote mode in order to like stop people, because I know a lot of Asmon's viewers went over there to call them out on it, so they'd like turn the chat off so it couldn't happen. And again, I have a lot of friends over there who are working their fucking balls off in the Method team. I have a lot of dudes over there who are working their balls off to put on the best show they possibly can, and this isn't something you want to see. It's not something you want to see. It's like, wait a minute, is no one here? What's going on? I'm working my ass off here to try and put on the best show possible, especially a lot of the young casters. And that's who I really feel for. A lot of the young casters who hope to one day move up or methods to get that world first and be part of the big show. That's what they want. And they're like cutting their teeth in a lot of ways in this environment. And they're doing their absolute best. They're driving forward. Again, it's a snake pit. Because like, if you look at just World of Warcraft casting right now, there's a hell of a lot of us, right? There's 7 here at Echo. There's another, 7 or 8 over at Liquid. There's like 11 at Method. That's a lot of people for not a lot of spots, should the Race to World First ever get unified into a big event, which is always my dream, right? And they're working their fucking balls off. And then you find out it's like, and then you might look back at that and be like, oh, cool, we actually got quite a lot of viewers. And it's like, actually, it's not really real. And you're like, oh, fuck me, dude. So yeah, not too happy about it. I think it's a little cheesy, and it's a little disrespectful to the players, certainly the players and the casters who are trying to put on the best show possible. And it feels pretty grim. It feels pretty grim. I know it's don't like. So we'll see what the fallout is that from the next day or so. Well, that's day 3. Always a drama going on, man. There's always something at the Race to World First. Every time I wake up at the Race to World First, there's something going on. Something going on, something that has happened, something to be aware of. And that's what it is today. So what will day 4 hold for me? I have no idea, but we'll find out in the next 24 hours. Hopefully, Farak's not dead by then, right? Because when I talk to you tomorrow, I think I'll be saying Liquid is at Farak, and Echo hasn't even started doing Mythic yet. Well, they will have by now. They started like an hour ago. Like, Echo is barely sleeping, and because they're trying to claw back those hours, but it's not like Liquid are resting on their laurels either. So fingers crossed, the splits go well today. Farak is done and dusted. I have no doubt what today looks like is Farak's all done, Mythic Plus till the end of the day, into Mythic tomorrow. But maybe tomorrow when I talk to you guys, Liquid is like already at Farak. So we'll wait and see how that goes, all right? Thank you so much. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.